actually use the phrase, the rage is real, because it really is for some people who have problematic periods. And it's like, where do you start? I think the first thing is a complete mindset shift, because we recognize that we've been misinformed. When we think back to our education when we were in school, I definitely didn't learn about the power of my period. I definitely didn't see it as a tool or a resource that would help me be more impactful, have more balance, have more harmony and flow. None of these things are spoken about. So I think the first thing of where to start is with curiosity, and to have that sense of curiosity of what would be possible for you. If you are having problematic periods, what would be possible for you if you were to see your period as something that is, or not your period, your cycle as something that is there to support you and something that you can use as a roadmap or like an inner guidance system. I think just having that shift or having that kind of moment of, oh, what would be possible for me? Immediately just conjures up all of these ideas. Well, I would be able to maybe spend more time with myself. Maybe I'll get to know myself better. Maybe I would be able to have more loving relationships, maybe have more loving relationship with myself.
That was Vianney Leigh, CEO of Status Quo Collective and the host of Periods and Power Moves podcast. And this is episode 25. Welcome to the Brave Woman podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle and author of Open Your Heart and The Art of Leading Circle. I'm the mother of 2 girls, an 8 on the Enneagram, aka the Challenger, happily married to my business partner, Brent, love connecting with nature, and have put in well over 10,000 hours circling with other women. On this podcast, we will explore how to embody the brave woman so that you can take action on your dreams and desires, unapologetically speak your truth, and live life on your own terms. Grab a seat and a cup of tea, and let's get started.
The Brave Woman podcast is brought to you by Sistership Circle. One of the tools used at Sistership Circle to help women tap deeper into their feminine wisdom and embody their power is invoking feminine leader archetypes. Archetypes are universal mythic characters that reside within the collective consciousness. When we activate these different archetypal energies, we are able to expand our capacity to lead in our lives and work. For this episode, we want to evoke the Queen archetype. As the Queen, you are a powerhouse. You are here to make big impact and change the world, whether that is just within your local community or on a global scale. In this activation, we focus on everything flowing with ease and grace by stepping into sovereignty, setting healthy boundaries, serving from your heart, speaking your soul's truth. You can get the full Queen Archetype activation at sistershipcircle.com/podcast-queen and receive 50% off. Click the link at the bottom of this episode's show notes. And now, onto our show.
Oh, this is going to be a good one. I've got Vianney with me, and we're going to be talking all about the big P, period. And I said, no coincidence. I just got my flow this morning. Like, of course I did. So I get to really be in the energy of this conversation as I'm flowing. And yeah, I thought that this would be such a brave conversation to have, because this is the woman who is all about disrupting the status quo around our menstrual cycles. I'm just so excited to have this conversation, get our juices flowing around it. So Vianney, tell me how it's disruption. This is a brave conversation to be leading. How did you get into this work?
I love that you describing it as brave, because sometimes I forget that it is actually a really brave thing, that the work that I'm doing, because of all of the shame and the taboo and the stigma that is involved around menstruation. So thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, especially on day 1 of your cycle. So how I got here. So I never, ever, you just described me as a period queen. And I never, ever once, off air, I never once thought that I would be doing this work. I never woke up one day and was like, I want to talk about periods and about menstruation and about helping women to empower themselves through their menstrual cycles. That was never on my radar. But I suppose the universe had a different plan for me, because what actually happened was I had a hormonal breakdown in 2018. That hormonal breakdown was actually triggered by something that was undiagnosed within me for years and years and years. So this one particular night, which I describe as the night of the dark soul, I was completely taken out of my reality, of what I thought was reality anyway, and just had an absolute breakdown. Everything I thought was true wasn't, and it was just very discomforting. I was very confused about who I was. And the reason why I say that particular night is because this actually was happening on a regular basis. It was happening in a cycle, right? But I wasn't making the connection to what that problem was. Behold, I actually was diagnosed with something called PMDD shortly afterwards. So PMDD is a hormone-based mood disorder. I had no idea what PMDD was. But that night that I had that breakdown, I was completely like a witch to my husband. I was just an absolute nightmare. I remember my mum having to come down to London that week to try and figure out what the hell was going on, because I was just not in a good place. I remember then feeling period pains as she was trying to get me to talk. And I said to her, oh, I feel like I'm coming on my period. Do you feel like this is connected? Do you ever experience such severe periods? And it was in that moment when I said the word severe periods that a light bulb kind of went off in my brain. And I thought to myself, oh, maybe all of this, the behavior that I've been experiencing for, the past 5 years or so, ups and downs and highs and lows, and being really extroverted and then being really introverted, which I now know that's fine, that's normal, was linked to my menstrual cycle. My mental health was affected. My menstrual health was affecting my mental health. When I said the word severe, she was like, oh, I think that I had terrible periods when I was growing up, but yeah, maybe they were severe, but I don't really remember. My mum's in her 60s. It's a very different time. Periods are really having their moment now. When she said yes to that, I just thought, oh, I need to get on the internet. I'd never in my life Googled PMS or severe PMS, but I did. Something told me to Google it. When I did, I started seeing all of these symptoms that were really resonating with me. And the more I dived into it, the more I was hearing more about this PMDD thing, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it affects 1 in 20 women, like I said. All of these women who were sharing their stories their lives were completely getting turned upside down. They were completely being disrupted by this rage and this, I call it PMS's crack sister, because it was just something so disruptive. And after doing my research, I thought to myself, I'm going to book a doctor's appointment. And because I was just so worried that no one would believe me, or that no one would think that anything was going on, because it's not like I broke my arm. It's not like you can actually see that there was something physically wrong with me. I thought that I would be dismissed and just been told that it's hormonal, right? So I actually brought my husband with me to the appointments. The PMDD community said a way for you to really be taken seriously was to start tracking your cycle. Track your cycle, write everything down and bring it to the doctors. So I did that for about 2 months. And when I took it to the doctors didn't even know what I was talking about. She had to Google what PMDD was. She had no idea what it was. I was instantly referred to a specialist, a menstrual disorder specialist. After a couple of weeks of, waiting and thinking, what is going on here? I finally got my appointment, and the doctor said to me, you're right, you do have PMDD. And what she said to me in that moment, I remember my palms are so clammy. She said to me, you've got a couple of options. You can either manage your symptoms, because there's no cure, or you can take SSRIs, so you can go on antidepressants, or she goes, some women are having their uteruses removed because of this condition. And I was just in so much shock and disbelief that these were my only options. I just said to myself, I'm not going to take these as my only options because I know that they're not. I remember when I was 11 years old, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. I witnessed her completely heal herself and go through this transformational journey of having a mastectomy and changing the way that she ate and changing the way that she thought and how she believed. She knew that her body could heal itself. I witnessed that from such a young age. So I feel like something just said to me, no, this is not what you have to accept. I said no to what my doctor said to me. I decided that I was going to find a way to heal. I was going to do it holistically and I was going to do it my own way. I was going to share my journey. And that's exactly what I did. And 5 months after being diagnosed, all of my symptoms suddenly started to disappear because of some of the things that I was trying and the techniques that I was doing. I just said, when I realized that, I was like, there's something here with our menstrual cycles that has been hidden from us. I feel like it's my duty to share how amazing it can actually be if you allow it to serve you instead of allowing it to destroy you.
I just really, first of all, this is what a brave act. This is just what I was doing, right? But where you decided that you were going to not take that as an answer. These are not my only 3 options. And I am going to not only create a new option, but I'm also going to help other women. So I'm just beaming. Thank you for doing that and just stepping into just that stand and that determination then has morphed into this beautiful business that's now serving women around the world. Wow. We talk about the heroine's journey on this show, and the heroine's journey typically has that dark night of the soul. So, of course, that's what you mentioned, that catalyst. That was that point when things shifted and changed and that light bulb went on because you had been in the dark. And it's like, no, there's another way here. This doesn't have to be my reality. So just commending you on that work and that journey. It's interesting because the couple days before my period, I'm in a lot of rage. And so I've been in this exploration over the past, 5 years of really understanding what foods I should be eating and how I should be sleeping and just all the different things. But just like the last 3 days, my husband actually left and he's like, oh, good, I'm missing the hell days. He's like, I don't have to be here for this, right? And I just noticed just how irritable I was and just really snippy with my girls and just didn't have any capacity, like didn't feel resourced and had a big cry yesterday at the river. I'm also curious, and I'm sure there's other women who are like, oh, wow, because our doctors don't know. I mean, that's the piece that you just pointed out. Like, hello, who are we supposed to go to for this? How are we supposed to understand? And we're just completely disconnected from birth control. We'll go into that. Where could I start? Like, where can someone start who's perhaps feeling like there could be another way? This doesn't have to be my reality of having this intensity come up. Or is it?
Yeah, I resonate so much with what you were just saying about the lead up to your period, the rage. I actually use the phrase, the rage is real, because it really is for some people who have problematic periods. And it's like, where do you start? I think the first thing is a complete mindset shift, because we recognize that we've been misinformed. We recognize that we haven't been given the information to empower us, right? When we think back to our education when we were in school, I definitely didn't learn about the power of my period. I definitely didn't see it as a tool or a resource that would help me be more impactful, have more balance, have more harmony and flow. None of these things are spoken about. So I think the first thing of where to start is with curiosity. And to have that sense of curiosity of what would be possible for you. If you are having problematic periods, what would be possible for you if you were to see your period as something that is, or not your period, your cycle, as something that is there to support you and something that you can use as a roadmap or like an inner guidance system. I think just having that shift or having that kind of moment of, oh, what would be possible for me? Immediately just conjures up all of these ideas. Well, I would be able to maybe spend more time with myself. Maybe I'll get to know myself better. Maybe I would be able to have more loving relationships, maybe have more loving relationship with myself. There's just so many areas of exploration when it comes to this journey. So the first thing I would say is just by start with looking at your current situation and looking at your cycle as an experiment, right? An experiment and an opportunity for you to continue to grow and to discover who you are. I think if you look at it like that, it takes the pressure of, oh, well, it needs to be perfect. It becomes fun then. I really want people to see this as like a fun, exciting journey where you're able to get so much from it. So practical things that you can do to start is to really start looking at your menstrual cycle. And so start tracking your cycle. So from day one of your cycle, where you are today, is the first day of full flow blood, right? I personally believe if you write down one word a day of how you're feeling, I'm all about the baby steps. I'm all about progress over perfection. Write down one word a day of how you're feeling, and then look back at that the next month and see if that word matches up to the next month, right? Or maybe add a new word. I feel like people put so much pressure on how to do this thing perfectly. And it's like, no, this is a journey for you and for you only. Like my cycle does not look anything like your cycle, right? So I think it's just opening the door, that kind of like curiosity awareness door to what could be possible for me here if I was to start aligning with my cycle and using it to help me.
I love that. Yes. I would say one of the issues is exactly what my husband said, right? Is like, I'm ready to run for the hills. Can I book myself a vacation during those few days before your period? I was saying to him, I said, well, yeah, what if we shifted the conversation around it? I think this is something that can come up for women is, what do we say to our men? Like, how can they support? And is there something perhaps they can be doing or saying or thinking? I don't know. Yeah.
I love this question. And I think it's so important because, yeah, like just from my personal experience, like I was 2 months into my marriage. And then all of a sudden I'm just like talking about periods every single day to my husband. He knows all of the phases. He knows where I am, what I'm up to, why I feel the ways that I feel. I think where we can start by talking to the men in our lives is by taking it back to basics and reminding them that we are all connected to nature, right? So a really great way for you to recognize that you are a cyclical being and what you're experiencing is different cycles of life every single month is by realizing that your menstrual cycle reflects with nature. So just like the seasons that we have here on Earth, it's no coincidence that our menstrual cycle has 4 phases, just like the 4 seasons that we have in Earth, right? So we've got spring, summer, autumn, and winter. I think whether this is talking about this with the men in our lives or with our children or with friends or anyone who is not aware of the different hormonal changes that we're experiencing week to week, to break it down per season makes it really easy to understand. Because if you say to someone, I'm in my winter right now, more than likely they're going to have ideas and visions of what is winter. Is a time where you want to stay indoors and maybe to hibernate a little bit and to just rest and to ground down and all of those things. I don't know whether you want me to explore more or talk about more about the inner seasons, but that's where I'm kind of going next.
Yes.
So we have winter, which is our menstrual phase, and we're bleeding. So where you are right now in your cycle is a time for us to rest. The reason why I love menstrual cycle alignment work so much is because it allows us to access our full potential. And one of the incredible superpowers that we have in a winter is the superpower of wisdom and heightened intuition. So let's kind of bring it back to talking about it with our men. What we could say is, I'm in my winter right now. I just need a little bit of rest. I'm just like bleeding, really takes up some of my reserves. I have less energy during this time. doesn't mean that I'm less of a person. I just need to rest. I have this inbuilt resting kind of system for me to remind myself to take my foot off the gas. It's beautiful when we do, because we're able to surrender to, again, what could be possible for us if we were able to slow down and see rest as a goal as well, right? Then we've got our spring. And when you think about spring, it's like new beginnings, it's a detox, it's a fresh start, it's playful, it's curious. This is when we've just finished our period. So more than likely, some of you that are listening, you may have just finished your period. And what it's like when you have finished, you're ready to kind of come out of your period cave. You're ready to kind of dip your toe back into the water of the world, right? That is a really great time for you to set intentions and have fun in your life, and remember that you have all of this infinite ideas and creativity. That is a superpower of your inner spring. Talking about this with our partners, we could say, this is a really great time for us to maybe start planning some date nights, or being a little bit more adventurous in our relationship, or brainstorming how we're going to, I don't know, redecorate the house, right? It's just a fun, curious, experimental time. Then we move into our inner summer, which is our ovulation time. So this is like the big event of the menstrual cycle experience, even though it's the shortest time. And this is a time for sheer and ultimate magnetism and power. This is how I see it. It's like your superhero time. And when you think about summer, we're thinking about like longer days, right? It's actually a thing. We have more energy to do more during our summer, right? We're thinking about confidence, being seen, being able to communicate better, being able to show up for more people in your life, right? It's kind of linked to the archetype of the mother, where you're able to kind of be all the things for everyone. And that's for a reason, because we're not supposed to be everything for everyone during every single phase of our cycle. And for our partners in our lives, this is the time for us to have sex, be really adventurous in the bedroom. It's about planning hot dates. It's about having really great conversations, dressing up, feeling confident. Like if you've got a business, it's about communicating with your community. All of these incredible things that you're able to have during this phase of your cycle.
Can I add something there?
Yeah, of course.
So we are always joking about my ovulation day as the one day that Brent cannot miss of the month, because he knows guaranteed that he's going to have sex. And then the other day, he sent me the most hilarious TikTok about this guy is sitting on the couch and he's on his phone, and the woman is, and it's like this really funny voice of like, it's the monkey like in heat. She's like hopping around the room, and then she like jumps on him, and he's like,
oh
you
my
know,
God.
and she's like giving him the look like it's time. It's so true. It's so true. Like it's like our juiciest, fullest day of the month. Okay, go on.
Absolutely. It is one day that we ovulate, but this phase is like 4 to 5 days, right?
Yeah, totally.
And even when you go into your inner spring, there's sometimes it's like, oh, finish bleeding, like I feel sexy again, or I want to have sex again. So I just find it so fascinating how we're able to maneuver and navigate our lives with more like joy and fun and ease and flow by using these seasons to our advantage. Yeah. Then let's talk about the rage phase. I don't even know why I called it that, because
where we're falling down.
Yeah. Well, we call it autumn, right, in the UK, but I've been saying fall quite a lot. Fall makes so much sense, actually. Yeah, your hormone levels are literally falling. So this is the longest phase of your cycle, and it can be the most difficult for some people who haven't been able to access the juiciness of it, right? The wisdom of it, the gifts of this cycle. Because like we said earlier, like the rage is real. The rage that you're experiencing is sacred. The irritation and the confusion and those kind of things, or those ideas of, oh, am I doing the right thing and all of that, that's kind of like guiding you, right? So this is the longest phase of your cycle. If you think about autumn or fall, right, you're thinking about kind of like Summer's over, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to kind of like go ghost now a little bit, right? I'm going to stop hanging out so much. I'm going to spend a bit more time with myself. I'm going to look at some projects that I need to kind of wrap up before the year ends. I need to kind of like edit my life a little bit. What do I need to get done? What do I need to finish up? That's exactly what this season's all about. And PMS is common during this time. 80% of people experience PMS, but it doesn't have to be reality. Like, the reason why people are experiencing PMS is because they have an imbalance or they probably have too much estrogen in their system. And estrogen is great during the first half of your cycle. It makes you feel good. It makes you really confident. It gives you your curves. It makes your face look more symmetrical, all of these incredible things. But when we have too much estrogen, when we go into the latter part of our cycle, that's what triggers PMS. That's what triggers the irritability and the cravings and the mood swings and the headaches and the bloating and all of these things. From Alyssa Vitti, who's the founder of Flow Living, I loved how she reframed PMS as prioritizing myself. I thought that was so powerful. Yeah, well, that was so powerful because you are reminded that we're not supposed to be on all of the time. But we're not lamps. We don't have to be on all the time either. When we realize that we don't have to be on all of the time, we're able to turn that light back onto ourselves. That is the reminder of our inner autumn or our inner fall to prioritize yourself, create some boundaries, look after yourself, give yourself a hug, right? Spend some time by yourself if you need to, and use this time to create the work that you want to do. Like, switch those outside lights off a little bit and just focus on yourself a little bit, if possible, at least 1% at least. So yeah, the rage that you're feeling or the anger that you're feeling during this phase, we can change that.
I love that. It's the reframe. It's really like, what if the rage isn't wrong? What if there's nothing wrong with it? What if it's not a bad thing, but it's a tool? I love that. And like, what is the wisdom of this time of the month? That's, I think, the conversation that I can have with my husband. And then, yeah, prioritizing myself, like, what do I need then to help to kind of contain that versus have it leak? And so that's, I think that, so bringing all these pieces together that you just shared of what's the curiosity and the exploration for me of what do I need to set up for myself those 5 days before my period comes, because I know when it's coming. I mean, I am checking on my phone. I like that with the one word, but I know it's coming. I know where I am. How can I be proactive of creating my container for that and to allow it to flow? I think actually this time I did a pretty good job at it, was processing through some stuff yesterday. Like I said, crying down at the river, felt like kind of moving that energy in my body and feeling it. And it's like, okay, it's this, something's coming up for me right now, right? I'm processing through something right now. So thank you for that beautiful explanation. And I think you're right. And what if we educate not only our partners, but our children? I have 2 little girls. They know when mommy's bleeding and they're so curious and they love to say, let me see, let me see. Ew. And it's just so cute. But I love this. Like, I can already be educating them about their cycles. They're like, when am I going to bleed? I'm like, not for a while. And they're like, oh, God, it's hilarious.
Oh, bless them. So cute.
But it's like, here's how you can help mommy during this week. And so it's like, right? It's so powerful.
Bringing them into your experience, because it's not like you can just, we have on average, is it 400 to 500 periods in a lifetime? Like, that's a lot of periods. Like, and I see those as incredible opportunities. However you see that opportunity, but it's an opportunity. Like in your case, it's like, bringing the girls in, bringing your husband in, and just how can you make this feel really nourishing and exciting for you and work for you?
Yeah. And make it juicy versus like a drag and this terrible thing. That is the status quo. PMS is a drag. It's a drain. Ugh, our periods. Let's clog it up. Let's get on the birth control and skip it all together. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about birth control, because more and more women, I don't even know the statistics on it, but more and more women are covering up their periods with birth control. So what do we need to know about that?
Let me just tune into what I feel like I need to channel in this message here, because this is such a huge topic. It can go in any direction. So first of all, I suppose I should actually put a little disclaimer out that the seasons that I've just described, not necessarily what someone who is on hormonal birth control, they may not be experiencing that. First of all, I also want to say that you have choices. I feel like there's a lot of people who think that they don't have a choice. There's so many choices for you. If you've been on hormonal birth control for like 10 years, 20 years, some clients have come to me being on hormonal birth control for their whole life. Well, not their whole life, but you know what I mean. You're just doing it out of habit because it's in your subconscious mind now. Like, take my pill every single day. Take my pill every single day. You're not actually querying, is this still working for me? Or what would happen if I was to come off this? Why am I taking this? First of all, is it to prevent pregnancy? If it is, okay, we have a 4 to 5 day fertile window. So, there are other options here. So if you're on hormonal birth control, you're not going to necessarily experience the same seasons that I was just describing, because your brain and your ovaries are no longer communicating with each other. Kind of like channeled this message the other day. What if that channel of communication, a lot of people think they need to go on hormonal birth control to regulate, I'm putting that in quotation marks, to regulate their periods, right? To kind of calm them down, to keep them in shape or control them, right? That whole regulate word. Hormonal birth control doesn't regulate your menstrual cycle. It stops your brain and your ovaries from communicating. When that happens, there's a lot of things that aren't happening. You're not producing key micronutrients that you need. You're not getting all the minerals that you need. There's more chances of anxiety, depression, and other health issues that can pop up because of hormonal birth control. But most importantly, when your brain and your ovaries aren't talking, what if that sacred channel of communication was the key for you to actually have that regulation in your body that you're looking for, that balance that you're looking for, right? Because the minute you turn off that line of communication, you're shutting down your access to your gifts. You're shutting down your access to your superpowers. So I would love to just say this with like so much, this is coming from a place of love and a place of, I am saying this to educate, to inspire, and to inform, but also be your own health advocate and also know what's best for you. Because birth control was created at a time where, this birth control story, am I really going to go into it?
Because this is the Brave podcast, Brave Woman podcast.
When the birth control pill came out, it created so many opportunities for women, right? Women were able to go to work, they were able to complete college, they were able to more money, right? Simply because they were taking something that would prevent them from becoming pregnant. But as time has gone on, we've recognized that some of the symptoms of birth control that you were experiencing before going on to birth control, you can actually have higher symptoms or more worse symptoms when you transition off hormonal birth control. Now, why is that? And that is because your menstrual cycle affects 5 of your biological systems in your body. Not a lot of people know this. It affects your immune system, it affects your stress response, it affects your metabolism, your gut microbiome, so your gut bacteria, and what's the other one? Your brain function, right? So when you think about all of those 5 biological systems being affected by your menstrual cycle, and you're turning off the communication between your brain and your ovaries, well, let's think about it. Maybe more stress could happen if you're on birth control. Maybe you have more unhealthy gut bacteria. 90% of our serotonin, which is our happiness neurochemical, is produced in our gut, right? Our gut affects our mood. So being on hormonal birth control can affect your gut health, your metabolism, right? It might be more difficult for you to metabolize not just food, but thoughts, emotions. All of these things are stored in the body, right? So yeah, there's a lot to consider. when it comes to birth control. I'm neither for it or against it. I'm just more make a decision that feels right in alignment with your truth, not what you've been kind of like been programmed to believe for all of these years without even taking a moment to be like, hold on a minute, who's the authority of my life? I am.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It's that sovereignty piece. And I love that health. Like, can we be health advocates for ourselves? And instead of just going towards, oh, well, the expert told me to do this, like, I'm actually the expert of my own body.
Yeah.
It goes back to your conversation with the doctor of here's my 3 options. And it's like, well, that doesn't feel aligned, right? Like, that doesn't feel like the truth. Cool. I'm going to step into my authority. I'm going to find something that works for me. I think the majority of women watching this, listening to this, are also in that boat as well of wanting and already like in that self-authority where we get to decide what's best for us, not what society or the so-and-so expert has told us, because we have our own inner guru, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So last piece is around eating and how that can affect our cramps. Can you share a little bit about eating in flow with our cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. I just love food, so I love talking about this. So I just always say, like, wouldn't it be amazing if you could find a way to nourish and to sustain yourself so that you have more energy? And I firmly believe that the way that we do that is through the way that we eat, right? Health really starts in the mind. So I always, when I'm working with clients, I always try to uncover what it is that they feel stuck with eating in a way to support themselves. Because if there's any kind of resistance to, well, I just want to eat whatever I want. And that's fine. Like, you can eat whatever you want. And this is what I love about this cycle alignment piece, is because you get to choose and you get to move through different seasonal types of foods. I think that's really exciting. So when it comes to cycle syncing, it's about choosing foods and behaviors and routines and patterns and all of these things that are going to optimally work with your changing biochemistry, right? So that means, why are we eating? Why do we think that we need to eat the same foods every day? Why are there diets out there? Like, the whole diet culture thing just really rubs me up the wrong way. Because why are there diets out there that are getting us to just eat one food group every single day, or to eliminate tons of different food groups it's just like, we're not the same person every day. So why do you think that we need to eat the same way, move the same way, be the same way? It's just not the case. When it comes to eating, let's just start with the seasons. So you can eat to support your cycle seasonally. So let's just start with where you are right now. So in your menstrual phase, what you want to avoid, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making, is eating a lot of sugar during your menstrual phase, right? And that's okay. We want the comfort foods. We want to get cozy with our comfort foods during this time. And when I say cozy, I'm talking stews and soups and warm, like a hug in a mug, basically. We want foods that are going to really help us build back up the iron that we've lost during our bleed. So we want to focus on foods like miso. We want to have miso in our diet. We want to eat mushrooms during our menstrual phase. We want to have kale during our menstrual phase. We want to eat like roasted vegetables like sweet potatoes and complex carbs during this phase, because you're more than likely going to notice that your body intuitively knows exactly what it wants to eat, right? If you start paying attention. Let's talk about your menstrual and your luteal phase. We want to load up with B complex carbs. We want to load up with iron-rich foods. I'm not a believer in cutting out certain food groups. I'm not a believer in necessarily becoming a vegan or anything like that. I used to be. But what I realize is that there's a certain time and a place to eat certain food groups. So you want to be eating like beef and turkey and maybe duck and pork when it comes to meats during your luteal and your menstrual phase, right? When you move on to your spring and summer, you want to be focusing on lighter foods, right? Lighter grains as well. So instead of in brown rice and sweet potato in your luteal and your menstrual phase, in your follicular and your ovulation, you want to be eating things like quinoa, right? Or you want to try something really light. Lentils, like red lentils, because they're lighter, right? And when it comes to meat, you want to have chicken, you want to have fish during this time. You want to load up on all of think of the rainbow, all of the different vegetables that you can have. When you're in your follicular and your ovulation phase, one thing that you might come to realize is that because it is a phase of detoxification, your body intuitively knows that it wants to cleanse, right? So it wants all of these cleansing, vibrant foods. And that's what I find really exciting. You can actually live off less during your follicular phase. That's why it's the phase of a detox. In a summer, you can eat foods like salmon, right? Fatty acids, and you want your nut butters and stuff like that. So yeah, I've got like a whole food chart, and I talk about all of this and teach you how to do this step by step in my system. But you eat in a way that is intuitive of what your body needs at that hormonal point of your cycle. Does that make sense? I feel like I just rambled.
No, it was great because we just really got to see, again, what would you eat during each season? So you're matching that per week, which is brilliant. So thank you for that. You have a system, the Perfect Flow formula, and free gift for us the ladies who are watching. We'll put that into the show notes. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, actually, I've got a brand new masterclass that I'm maybe swapping out the Perfect Flow formula. So if you're listening to this and the Perfect Flow formula is still available, which is a free guide, amazing, grab that, because that has a menstrual cycle tracker and all of these incredible ways for you to start working with your cycle right away, and videos and all of that good stuff. But I've got a free masterclass that is going to be available probably by the time this comes out. It's all about how to work with the power of your menstrual cycle. There's going to be 5 ways that you can replace pain with peace, productivity, and creativity. It's like a full-on 2-hour masterclass. You can get it all. It's free. It's fun. And that will be available for anyone who is interested in going a lot more deeper into this work.
Beautiful. So we'll have the link in our show notes. Oh, this is such a great conversation. Thank you. Super fun. And we went deep and just covered the full range. So is there anything that we missed? I want to make sure everyone knows about that.
I suppose what's just dropped into me is something that I spoke about recently, which was just about perfectionism. Like, perfectionism dims your power. So if you are entering this new phase or this new journey of wanting to work with your menstrual cycle, heal your menstrual cycle, or heal your period, let go of the perfectionism. See it as an experiment, enjoy it, because trying to make it perfect and micromanaging your experience is really going to dim the access that you have, dim the power that you have. So that's what I wanted to share.
Well, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And everyone head over to the show notes to grab that Perfect Flow formula and the masterclass. We'll see you at the next Brave Woman podcast. If you just listened to this show, I'd love for you to leave the Brave Woman podcast an honest review. Reviews help podcasts like this one grow, making it more possible for me to devote my time, energy, and money to its production. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to support@sistershipcircle.com, we'll send you one of our archetype activations as a thank you gift. If you like this show and have been watching for a while, or even this is the first one, I have an ask of you. This feels vulnerable, but I know I need to model the brave woman every day in as many ways as I can. Here's my ask. This podcast costs a lot of time, money, and energy to produce it. And in order for it to be sustainable over the long term, I need financial sponsorship. A simple way for you to support is by buying me a cup of coffee. Cute, huh? If everyone who listened bought me a cup of coffee for $1, $3, $5, it would cover the cost of production. So you can do this at sistershipcircle.com/coffee. Thank you so much for your love and support. Up next, there's been a lot of influencers talking about taking their breast plants out, finding them to be the culprit for autoimmune diseases and other ailments. And that is exactly where we're going in this next episode. Hadia bears it all, sharing her story from disowning her breasts to coming back into full acceptance of the beauty queen that she is. This one is potent and will inspire you to love all parts of yourself as a goddess.